I'm your host for this evening event, Rohit from Adore. Before we dive in the event, let me give you a quick glimpse into Adore. Adore is a global network of students and passionate professionals, all like ourselves, who all are passionate about inspiring youth to make a positive impact. We connect you with established professionals and offer a platform to learn from their journeys. Now, on behalf of Team Maverick and Adore, I want to welcome you to this for today's event. We are thrilled to welcome you on this webinar on the topic Forced to Grow, the Impact of Early Adulthood Expectations on Youth, and it is presented by Ms.Philana Swart. To make this session even more engaging, on the topic Forced to Grow, the Impact of Early Adulthood Expectations on Youth, and it is presented by Ms.Philana Swart. And now, the moment we have all been waiting for, our esteemed guest for today is Ms. Philana Swart. Ms. Philana is a credit controller at One Call 24. Ms. Philana, it is a true honor for us to have you with us today. We all are eager to gain valuable insights from your experiences and expertise. Ms. Philana, the floor is yours. You may begin. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Rohit, and it's always nice to be here. So today we're jumping into a little topic, forced to grow, the impact of early adulthood expectations on youth. I said little adults, but Rohit helped me with the title as well. Thank you. Um, so basically, um, this little adults is basically on everything that was put on your shoulders, intentionally or unintentionally, when you were a kid, and this is how it's basically going to impact your young adult. Rohit, you can go to the next slide. So this is like a did you know type of thing. So basically from birth to the age of 3, your brain basically develops to 90% of the adult size, and it will only reach 100% by the time you're adult in your mid-20s. Um, I did go look, the exact age is 25 to 27. It differs between male and female. Basically, this rapid growth means that every single experience and interaction between 0% growth to 100% growth plays a very crucial role in shaping how you as a child will think, how you will feel, and how you will respond to things when you're adult. You can go to the next slide. Basically, their adult lives will be shaped in certain areas, such as mental health, their physical health, relationships, belief, and their attachment styles. You can go to the next slide. So basically, you might be thinking and asking, but Lana, what has this to do with youth-related problems? So let me show you. Basically, when you go back, think of any young person, your friend, your cousin, nieces and nephews, a stranger you saw, documentaries you might have read about a young person, basically anyone that struggles with some sort of mental health, and try to remember some of these characteristics you saw, either over people pleasing. They might really struggle to say no, or they're highly perfectionistic. You can change the slide. Oh, and anyone can stop me at any time to ask questions. So basically, these are some of the few characteristics that can actually be carried over from childhood experiences and decisions. But remember, I am not a professional. So you, you can change to the next slide, Reheat. But I do see myself as a professional queen of research. And for this topic, I had to do a lot of research.
Okay, sure.
I put a little crown there for you guys. You can change the next one. So basically, young adults with some of these characteristics will likely parent-fied children, or in other terms, a surrogate spouse. It's basically both these terms describe a child that was expected or compelled to take on adult responsibilities. Now, throughout this whole
Okay.
presentation, whenever I say child, I mean anyone before, between the ages of newborn to the age of 25, 27. Um,
Oh,
Basically, by these, yes,
yeah, ma'am, like, so, with your permission, may I ask a question, like, before we
no
proceed,
problem,
Okay,
no
so,
problem.
is there any negative impact of growing, like, very quick, like, before, mentally growing very quick? What are some negative impacts, like, is there any kind of stress the youth face or the children face?
So you're asking basically what is the negative impact of growing
Yeah,
up
yeah,
too quickly?
yeah.
Well, I would say definitely on your mental health. You were not built to grow up to a full-fledged adult in a matter of 2, 3 years. And not just mentally, but physically as well. As we go on, you'll see that the major impacts it can have. Obviously, you're called a child for a reason. There's specific lines you can't go over because you're a child. Like, let's say, as an adult, you can't play at swings and stuff, even though it's still fun. You can't do it because it's for a child. Now, the same thing goes for adult things. They're not meant for children, and vice versa.
Okay, ma'am, thank you. Yes,
No
indeed, like,
problem.
it has lots of, it creates pressure as expectations to grow very quickly.
It's not, but it will get better explained throughout the presentation.
Sure, ma'am, you can continue.
Um,
Thank you.
No problem. But like you can see on this specific presentation, there are actually a few pictures that I try to summarize what a surrogate spouse or parent-fied child might do, like take care of an adult when they're drunk or passed out, when they're sick, taking care of siblings. You can go to the next slide. So basically, you need to remember that not all parents do this intentionally. Trust me. Some, let's say, openly discusses everything regarding the household because they hope and believe that this will teach their children honesty. Now, however, remember topics like finance or work problems or relationship problems between the mom and dad are not actually meant for the ears of children, and it can be quite heavy for a child to bear. I mean, as adults, if you have to talk to your partner or your mom or whomever about your finances or your relationship problems, it's even for us very heavy to bear. You can go to the next slide. So some parents do this intentionally, like expecting the oldest child to take care of all the younger siblings, handle most of the housework, like cooking or even cleaning, or even looking after them as the parents after a night out. Now remember, when I say housework, I do not mean your basic chores of picking up your toys, quickly helping put all the dishes in the sink, not like that physical housework like from start to end, sweep, mop, vacuum, all the house stuff, cleaning up after everyone in the house, like an adult would. So there are some lines that just can't be surpassed by a child. You can go to the next one. So there are three key areas that you can either examine yourself or others to identify signs whether or not you were a parent-fied child or a surrogate spouse. You can go to the next one, Rohit. So the first one we will be looking into is actually going to be the mental health key. This is anything from anxiety, compulsive caretaking. So this one is actually quite interesting. In a nutshell, is anyone that always take care of individuals that either need rescuing or fixing or constant help. Basically, someone that can't take after themselves, not necessarily a child, but adults as well. They really focus their everything into someone. Let's say someone with a bad past or going something through something very traumatizing and stuff. Those people are drawn to people going through something like that. And it's unintentional. They think they're just being empathetic or sympathetic. Perfectionism. I don't know. You have your way to do your work. Everybody does, but it's almost like a little itch. If they don't do it a certain way, they they get irritated, agitated. They get kind of angry if the thing they were busy with, either be it work, housework, presentations as such, don't come out the way they wanted it to come. Work alcoholism is also one, believe it or not. Um, Workalism, sorry. Basically, they overwork. When they're sick, they work from home. Even when they're sick, they start at supposed to start at 8 working, but they decide they're going to start at 6. Even though for some people it feel like, no, I'm just putting in that extra effort. You can absolutely see the clear difference between someone that's just going that extra mile and someone that is going the extra 600 miles. There's a complete difference. The one exhausts you, the other one will reward you. The desire for control. This is also the same as the perfectionism. They kind of go hand in hand. Obviously, you always would want to try and control the situation because remember, as a kid, you had no control over your situation. So this one does make a lot of sense. You didn't have a control over what you're going to do throughout the day, whether or not you're going to be a child or adult for the day. Decisions were made for you and situations were controlled for you. Um, they always, they will always feel compelled to perform at a level exceeding what is expected because they want that approval, that pat on the back. Um, because they had to make, yes. Oh. Um, they want that approval. They'd want that pat on the back because they felt that the only reason they had to do something every single day like an adult is because they didn't do it well enough the previous day. Um, and obviously this stems from a long-standing rule of having to take care of others and managing challenging situations from a very early age. You can go to the next one. So the next key we'll be looking into physical health. So all of these will include like stress-related symptoms. They'll have frequent headaches, stomach aches, muscle tension, fatigue, and a very high difficulty of sleeping. Because even though their body is tired, their brain just goes into overdrive. They will worry and overthink the whole night long. Just a quick fact now, the stomach aches, a lot of people tell me, but why is their stomach aches? So as you go through all these mental health problems like anxiety, your body goes into fight or flight, meaning it releases a lot of adrenaline. And adrenaline is actually poisonous for your whole body in very high quantities. So this is why out of mental health, you'll start to have the physical symptoms, immune system dysfunctions. Chronic stress can really weaken your body's way of fighting illnesses. So you'll obviously get more ill more frequent than the rest of us. Poor eating habits. It's like a stress eater, emotional stress eater, or someone that loses eating the sensation of hunger completely. Substance abuse, obviously, to deal with whatever they're thinking with. They'll go to alcohol, they'll go to drugs, because they're not coping with the stress very well. Neglecting personal needs, not doing the basic things of waking up, go brushing your teeth, doing your hair and such. And it goes both ways for males and females. They don't do self-care like exercising or resting properly. All of these actually run up on each other. It starts with the mental health, it goes into physical health, and so forth. You can go to the next slide. So here we go into relationships and attachment styles. And I read this little presentation to my manager, and he said that he felt shocked to know that sometimes the way you perceive your relationships and the way you make a connection with someone, be it romantic or not, even your work colleagues, can be reasons what happened in your childhood, and you would not even know it. So, whenever anyone has a question, please stop me. Insecure attachments. So, parentified children often develop an anxious or avoidant attachment style. Basically, it's because when they were younger, their emotional needs back then were not met. So, as an adult, you kind of have this immense fear of being abandoned, and it takes a lot for you to trust someone. Because when you were supposed to trust someone with your life, be it your mom, your dad, whomever the adult was in your childhood, they did not show you the meaning of being safe, being able to trust me because I'll take care of you. Don't worry, you're the child, I'm the adult, I'm taking care of you. They don't know that. They go into a hyperdrive of a caregiving role. So, in most of their adult relationships, unconsciously, they will put themselves last. They will
Okay,
always make sure that their partner's needs is met. Not even to
okay,
100%, 110%.
okay, ma'am. May I ask a question?
Yes.
Okay, so ma'am, I didn't quite understand how insecure attachment is like it leads to this quick development or this high expectation of quick growth. Anyway,
S- Sorry, just say again. I didn't hear
like
proper.
how it is related to the quick development or quick growth of your expectations. How this insecure
Oh,
attachment
how all of
is.
this relates to the
Yeah, yeah,
expectations of growing up so
yes,
quickly.
yes, yes.
So, what are
Mhm.
you first when you are born? Are you born as an adult or are you born as a child? No, you're born as a child. So that means whatever happens in your childhood will directly feed into who you will be when you're an adult. Whatever happens when you are a child will make sure, the way you think, the way you react, the way you feel about certain situations you need to dealt with as an adult. So obviously, you need to make sure that whatever will happen as a child, they always say there's this nice word, they call it little fledglings, little hatchlings. Obviously, whatever happens here, you need to learn how to swim, need to learn how to fly, need to learn how to eat, so that as an adult, you can take care of yourself. But because the roles are swapped, you're being an adult, you're not being allowed to experience certain things to shape your adulthood because you're already being shaped. You understand how I'm explaining
Yes, ma'am.
this?
Yes, I'm getting it.
And
It's connected from
and
our childhood.
yes, and it's no one's fault. Don't ever feel that all of these things that I'm mentioning is anyone's fault.
It is, ma'am.
Um,
Fault is there of high expectations.
it's very high. And like I said, not all parents do it intentionally.
Yes, ma'am.
Um,
I understand.
No problem. I'm actually glad you asked this question, like boundary struggles. Because there were no boundaries between child and adult, you now in your adulthood have trouble setting boundaries when it comes to your relationships. Again, it's not necessarily romantic, but when it comes to work colleagues or when it comes to a stranger, that connection, that how you socialize. Obviously, you don't set healthy limits. So how does that saying go? They walk all over me, use you as a doormat, um, that type of thing. Obviously, again, fear of abandonment. Those people will always have a fear of being abandoned, being left alone. So they cling to their partner so badly, to their relationship so badly that they over accommodate, as in they'll literally sacrifice their own happiness, their own mental health, so that the person they have a relationship with just don't leave them. Obviously difficulty expressing their needs. Um, Obviously, because as a child, they were taught, listen, um, you you don't have a say. You just do what I tell you because I'm the adult. You just do what I tell you. So obviously in their adult relationships, they can't say, listen, what you're doing to me is not right. I don't feel happy. I don't feel you're listening to me. And that obviously leads into attracting very unhealthy dynamics. Basically, they'll take over the caregiving role. They're not going to be the partner. They're going to take over, let's say, the motherly role. They'll go to any partner that needs any type of support, be it healthy or unhealthy. Again, someone that's going through something very traumatic, um, the bad boys, because they need someone to teach them the rights and wrongs, isn't it? Let's say someone at work struggling through homelessness due to a gambling problem, they'll say, no, just come live with me. I'll take care of you, stuff like that. And remember, those people are very hard to get rid of later on because they get used to you taking care of them. You can go to the next one. So, obviously, mental health, physical health, and relationships. A lot of you might say, but Lana, all of these symptoms you're mentioning, there's different mental disorders for it. But you need to remember that any and every mental disorder has a root cause. And believe it or not, most of them do stem from your childhood. It's just part of that. Obviously, because your brain had to grow from nothing to 100%. It grew with what you experience throughout your childhood. Again, when I say child, it's from 0 to 25 or 27. Um, so a lot of people say, but they can't make the connection. But I saw a lot of people say, but you need to remember, you're a child until your brain is fully developed. Some people can tell you their childhood was wonderful, but the last 4 years of their between let's say 19 and 24 was very bad. But you were still a child then. So obviously now, as a full-fledged adult, you're gonna have problems that came from your childhood. You can go to the next one, Reed. So the thing is, when you're always taking care of everyone else, you will start pushing your own needs, your own feelings aside until you believe you just don't matter because you felt that as a child, the adult in your life didn't make you feel like you mattered. You will basically just end up losing touch with yourself. You'll end up losing the feeling of self-worth. Um, so you'll constantly try to prove yourself. Even if the adult of your child is no longer there, you'll keep proving yourself to whomever's closest to you. You'll try to prove you're being perfect. You'll try to prove, but I'm hardworking. You'll always need to look after others. And you'll just end up feeling that you don't have any real value, and you're going to struggle to stand up for yourself, to set boundaries, to feel confident, and actually go after what you want because you were taught that what you want does not matter. Um, and that's unfortunately the sad reality. And that's the scary part for 27 years of your life. Someone needs to make sure that your childhood is okay enough for you to go into the adult world without having such characteristics. Yes, here and there, you might say, oh, but no, I don't work too hard. I actually enjoy keeping busy. That's okay. Just don't do it to the point of burning out, to exhaustion. But I'm a perfectionist. It's okay if your pen or pencil needs to be a certain way, but it shouldn't make you feel your world is falling apart because the meeting you set up did not go the way you planned. You can go to the next one, Rohit.
Hello, ma'am.
Yes,
Before moving into the next slide, I found this slide like really relatable. So I just have one question for you. Like it
no
is written
problem.
on the first line, when you are always taking care of everyone else, you start pushing your needs, feelings, and desires to a side until you believe it doesn't really matter. So, ma'am, could you share your experience related to this? Like, did you face anything like that?
So, just personally, me and my youngest, well, we're taught two children. So, me and my sister, we differ 9 years. That's a big jump. And my dad had a sister older than him, 2 years apart, that always protected him. So, he hoped to teach me that with my sister. But they did it unintentionally. They taught me that whenever she cried, go get a bottle, how to change her, everything, because I was basically a toddler, or almost going to grade R, preschool. And in that sense, they kind of parentified me, you know? And later on, because it was a job and not something I wanted to do, I kind of just, when I told them, listen, I don't want to take care of her. And they would say, but you don't have a say. She's your sister. She can't go anywhere. Again, this was unintentionally. Most parents do it unintentionally. And obviously, with that constant reminder, you don't have a say. She's not going anywhere. It goes to your mind. Later on, you just do it because you know for a fact you don't have a say. So you just keep your feelings aside because if you say something about how you feel, you're gonna end up scolding. And believe it or not, that experience when she was born ripped our relationship apart because I saw her as a daily task, something I didn't want to do, something I was forced to accept. And only now, because we're adults, she's 17 now, and I'm 23. Only now we came to the conclusion, but it was never us. We never did anything to each other because we always fought, but never knew what about. It was because unintentionally we were taught that we are each other's tasks. We didn't want to look after each other. So yeah, basically, as you get told certain things like, no, you can't say something like that because I basically told her I hated her. But it's not her that I hated. It was the fact that I needed to change her. I needed to give a bottle. Because remember, as a child, I was so used having a doll that does not cry, that does not stink, then does not get hungry until my imagination, decided it should. So that's why some children with such big age gaps tend to end up being parentified.
That's relatable. Very relatable. Thank you. Thank you for sharing.
No
Okay.
problem. Does anyone other have questions
Yes, if
before
anyone,
we?
please, you can go ahead because it's a very
Yes,
interesting topic.
please.
Yeah, for anyone. These slides are really very much relatable to our experiences or things that
No
go on.
problem.
Yeah.
Okay, no problem. You can go if there's no questions.
I don't think, ma'am, now anyone wants to ask any questions, so we can move to the next slide.
You're more than welcome to. You can
No,
go.
no, I have one question.
Yeah, yeah, go
Um,
Okay.
ahead, please.
I am just typing the question in chat box.
Yay, Priya, I'm so glad someone asked this question. Okay, so when I showed my manager this question, right? So you're asking, how do social and cultural norms influence the pressure on youth to grow up early? So, cultural. For us, not having big families, that's the norm. One, maybe two children. Where, let's say, for people coming from India, Mexico, the more children, the merrier. Some African cultures also believe that. Um, this actually creates, the more children you have, I've seen and research, can actually cause a lot of more children to become parentified because you have more children, more, older siblings to look after the younger ones. So basically, an adult steps out of that role completely. Again, it can be unintentional or intentional. We never know. That is actually the cultural norm. It's not so common for children, one or two, to become parentified, but the more children there are, because the cultural belief is there, the more children out of a family can be parentified or become substitute spouses. Where social, mm, that's a it depends again on how the parents were raised and obviously what is you are being surrounded with when you are a child. Obviously, there's one culture that can actually be excluded of what I just explained, and that obviously would be I would say the Asian, as in Chinese, Japanese, because I don't know if anyone is aware, they start to be adults like from 2 years old. They're forced to know how to write, how to speak, how to read, how to recite mathematical equations, everything. Yes, that does help them to become more intellectual more quickly. But that's why their suicide rates can be quite high because they experience so much of pressure. And remember, most of them only have one or two children. But it's because their whole cultural belief is to start so early. And that's not actually what it is to be a kid. You're not supposed to know anything about math other than I have three oranges and I have one friend. I'm going to have two and she's going to have one, or how to split it in half, the last bit of chocolate between you and your sibling to make it even. You don't need to know the answer to pi, but because of that cultural um, belief that what happens. I feel they are cultural, they're a whole culture of parentified children. And unless you, as the next generation, decides to cut it off and do it differently, that cycle will continue. Um, yeah, I hope that answers your question, Priya.
Thank you for answering.
No
But
problem. Um, and again, after hearing everything, anyone and everyone needs to remember that it was never your fault for being a kid, being pushed into adult roles. Um, it was not because you were not valued or not seen as important and such. Unfortunately, it's done, it's dusted, and the only person that has the power to change what is happening in the now is you. People can only give you advice. You can go to a million webinars where you know everything by heart. If you don't make that decision yourself, it's not gonna happen. So you can go to the next one, Ruhit. Now you're asking me, but how can I change this? Obviously, self-awareness. Make a point of this to notice when you're slipping into caregiving patterns and tune into your emotions. Again, a lot of care purified children as adults, they do this unintentionally. because it became like a routine to them. So it's going to take some extra work to make sure that whenever you go into that extreme caregiving mama bear type of role, that you step back and say, whoa, this is not okay. What happened? What was I busy doing? And how is that making me feel? Because you call it triggers. A lot of the time, there's going to be a trigger that will force you into your caregiving patterns, and you need to make sure that you know how you feel so that you can, be it remove the trigger from your life, understand the trigger. Let's say you were watching Winnie the Pooh and you have a trigger of going, you need to understand why, because a lot of no one can tell you why Winnie the Pooh triggered you. That's why you need to sit and reflect. Boundary setting. I too have sometimes a problem with boundary setting. Um, you need to practice to say no and set limits. You can't just keep telling your boss, yes, don't worry, I don't need sleep. Who needs sleep? Give me the work. It's okay to say no. You're still human. You say no. Obviously, some things you can't say no. But in this sense, whatever is going to exhaust you mentally and physically, you need to decide whether or not you're going to say no, which is more important. The fact that your manager knows for a fact you can do 10,000 emails in one day, or the fact that you can go home at 5 o'clock and not feel mentally and physically exhausted. You can always just split the emails in throughout 3 days, but you can't split the where you look after yourself in 3 days. It needs to be a routine of every day. Prioritize self-care. Um, Obviously, this will differ from person to person. Like, you can engage in activities that will support your well-being, like exercise. I don't like exercise. That's why I say it differs from person to person. Relaxation. Some people say go to a spa, or lavender oil that has been scientifically proven to lower stress and start relaxation. Hobbies, for me, it's like reading a book or playing with some animals, my pets, um, and time with supportive people. Obviously, you need to make sure that you obviously set that boundary, that's the previous one, of not allowing unhealthy relationships be in your little circle of people, um, because you can't prioritize yourself if there's someone else above you, if that makes sense. So make sure that the people around you understand that the people around you, if they're supportive, this is the quickest way you can know they will not go over your boundaries. And you will never need to tell them no, because in the first place, they know there's a boundary. They see the invisible line drawn. You will never need to tell them no, because they'll never intentionally go over your boundaries, because they know them by heart. Inner child work. So this is something new that I also learned. It's a type of therapy or self-reflection to reconnect with the child you lost. I know it sounds hectic, but you were adult in a child's body. So basically, you suppressed everything a child is all about, and you locked that child away. So basically, this therapy, they say it's a very emotional me type of reflection. They're literally going to scratch open every single wound you experienced as a child because they need to start healing properly. So basically, they're going to start from the now and work their way back and work their way back to the now because they properly want to make sure your inner child is now okay. um, Normal therapy, you can go to a normal psychologist and just talk to them about certain strategies of how to deal with, again, your triggers, how to give you some activities that you can work through by yourself to make sure You know now how to start setting boundaries, activities or strategies to teach you how to take care of yourself, self-awareness. It's not so intense, and it depends on when the wound was created and how deep that wound is. They'll most probably tell you you need to go to inner child work. Obviously, challenging negative beliefs. Um, there will always be this little voice of a parentified child. I must be responsible for everyone's happiness. That's a lot for someone to take on. You will never, ever be able to keep everyone else happy. Later on, what goes hand in hand with this saying, you will not be able to give out of an empty cup. Because what happens if you feel everyone must be happy because I'm responsible for their happiness, you'll give away some of your own happiness, isn't it? You'll give away what makes you happy because that person doesn't want to stay at home, be alone when you want to go out hiking. So you'll stop going out hiking and you'll give in to that person, constantly giving out to the point of you have nothing left for yourself. So you need to constantly challenge that. I always say go with your gut feeling, even though your head and your heart might tell you otherwise, your gut will never be wrong. Because if there's certain beliefs, your gut feeling will tell you, just step away, don't go there. Assertive communication. You need to express your needs and openly while respecting others' boundaries. Don't go yelling at your mom like, you this to me, it's your. No, go sit with her, give her some cup of tea, and you say, listen, I know that as a child you didn't mean to do this and this and this, and it makes me feel now like this and this. Obviously, you want them to respect your boundaries, so respect other people's boundaries. It's okay to talk about your feelings because believe it or not, you're now an adult and you now have that right to say how you feel. Even as a child, you have the right, but you don't necessarily know how you say it. It's not what you say, it's how you say it. Again, identifying triggers. Believe it or not, not just situations are triggers, people can be triggers. For me, believe it or not, I also have a little trigger when I look at two siblings. If I see the younger one is bullying the older one, I kind of get sad because I know how it feels. That older one is just going to take the blame anyways, and he's not going to say anything. I would be like, hey, you little one, I see what you're doing. I'm going to tell your parents. And obviously, I'll go to that oldest one and I'll try to reflect with them because teaching that to them that second is better than waiting for them to teach it to themselves when they're adults. So identify your triggers. You're not always going to know what they are, unfortunately, and no one else would be able to tell you. Um, so yeah, these are the few things you can look to. Start with the one that's the easiest to achieve. I'm not saying jump into inner child work and then you come to me, Lana, I'm traumatized. I don't know what to do anymore. Don't start with something simple like waking up in the morning, getting dressed, brushing your teeth. Even if you just move from your bed to the couch, just make sure between the bed and the couch, you brushed your teeth, you combed your hair. It's going to make such a difference throughout the day, and it's going to make the other things seem a bit easier to achieve. You can go to the next one. Is there any questions?
We'll ask in last. Uh,
I'll ask. And basically, whatever wound there was, it will heal. You can go to the next one. I'm just gonna leave you with a little quote that I saw. I saw this picture and I just fell in love. So within every single person, there's an inner child. That child is still filled with wonder, creativity, and the belief that anything is possible. Now, the reason why this picture stood out to me is that as an adult, I was reading this and I said, I can't believe this is an adult that wrote this quote. It sounds like a child, so full of hope and wonder and stuff. And that's the sad thing. A lot of the adults, they don't tune into their inner child anymore. Not because they don't want to, it's because their inner child is so traumatized and hurt, they can't tune into it. And that's why most people, if you feel your parent fight or you want to know if you were, just seek that bit of support. Just go hear by a psychologist. Listen, am I? Because the best time to do something about it, to change it, remember, you can't change the past, but you can change how you react to it, is now. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, ma'am, and thank you so much for this session of today. It was really interesting, like to interact with you on this so much interesting and interesting topic. It was very relatable, you know what, like I want to say, like all the slides that you said, we could relate with us or the things that we have known. So it was very relatable, and I request everyone, if you have any question for Ms. Philana, kindly write them on the chat box, or you can ask them to. Feel
Okay.
free.
So I see we already have a question. What changes can society implement to reduce the burden on early adulthood expectation on youth? Well, I would say educate the adults. Everybody wants to say, listen, doctor, I want to know what can I give my child because he's too busy, he's too this. No, educate the adults because they're the adults. Society needs to be a bit more, I wouldn't say strict. Strict is not the right word, but stern when it comes to educating mothers, educating fathers. Try to help. Society needs to help break bad cycles. They need to start to teach moms, yes, you're going to be tired and stuff. Don't expect your daughter to take over the cooking. It's okay to go buy takeaways and stuff, or just give your husband a egg, fried egg and bread. It's okay. He won't die. Teach the husbands that it's not your son's job when you're not at home to look after the female in the house. You're still the adult. I truly feel that if society focuses more to educate the adults, then less and less children would need to go through that vicious cycle of being parentified, being expected to grow up too quickly. So, yeah, I feel that's my opinion on what society can change.
Hello, ma'am. I also have a question to ask. Like, as we are discussing about high expectations from youths to become very grown up quickly in a short duration. So, do you think in future, or like in the upcoming future time, it will increase this high expectations? It will keep on increasing from the society and from individuals or from parents or from family members, friends.
So, let me just get it straight. You're asking, do I think that parent-fied children, the amount they are, will increase in the future or decrease?
Increase, obviously.
I would say it might increase, but it can go both ways. Again, people have the power to change themselves, and it's going to be a ripple effect. If you have one or two children and you want to break that cycle, teach them. Make sure they teach your grandchildren because if it spreads like it can spread like a wildfire, that the cycle will continue, or it will spread like a wildfire that everybody wants to break that cycle. So definitely, I don't know. And again, as young adults, all of us need to start educating each other. I don't know a lot about technology. So let's say Ruhit comes to me, Ruhit, you'll come to me and you'll teach me everything you know. I can teach you. That way, we can inspire each other to break certain cycles. You can say, oh, but all technology needs to go out. It needs to become more eco-friendly. You inspire me to then recycle my technology. I can inspire you, hopefully, to break the cycle of parenting-fying your children. be it intentionally or unintentionally. And that's how one topic, well, two topics can reach two people at the same time. So as young adults, we do need to stand together because you can't leave everything in the hands of an adult because most of them lost touch with their inner child, and you can't expect children to do the change or be the change because they're not adults. So young adults is actually the most perfect age because you can do both. You can make a adult responsible decision while making sure you're thinking of the children as well, because you're still in that mentality of how to think like a child. For some people, it's very hard to look back or tune in into their inner child because they've only been taught how to be like an adult. As long as we stand together and inspire each other, I hope that it decreases. And that's why places like a door is needed because it's a platform where young adults can inspire each other without being said your feelings don't matter, your opinion doesn't matter. You feel safe here. Your opinion is valued, be it or not you're a parent for a child or not.
Thank you, ma'am. It was really inspiring. Thank you so much. Yes.
No problem.
Uh,
Any questions, anyone?
I think we are done with the questions. I don't think anyone else have any questions because your
Okay.
slides were really very clear and it was really very relatable. Thank you so much.
Okay.
And so, as we are near the closing ceremony, before we would depart, I would like to give a heartfelt thanks to Ms. Philana for this amazing session and our esteemed Dinesh sir, Simran, and the entire team behind this, who are behind these events, making it successful. So yes, if anyone wants to visit our website, you can. It is Adore Global, and you can have a look what we do or what is our work. So everyone is requested. There is a feedback form in the chat box. Kindly fill the feedback. This helps us to make the future events even more better. So once again, thank you so much everyone for attending here. And the webinar is over. You may leave the room. Thank you everyone.